Good morning. It's Monday, April 13th, 2020. On our agenda today in math, we're going to be learning about the shape called a rhombus. You'll have a question to answer about that on your Google quiz. In reading, we're going to be reading a new article called Bats, and we'll have a question about that in our Google quiz. In writing, we'll be working on the last part of our celebrity dinner party. This will be something you're going to need to use paper and pencil for. In science, we're going to be watching some videos on animal life cycles. There'll be a video in your attachments underneath the morning message on Google Classroom. And for prep, today I'm going to tell you about a new Google Classroom that has been created by your prep teachers. Upcoming assignments, our book movie video. We're going to be doing a book movie video of the day so that we have an opportunity to see everybody's presentations. I will let you know when those are going to be up for your viewing. And our celebrity dinner party essay will be due this Friday, April 17th. All right, so let's get into math. So today we're going to be learning about rhombi, which is the way you say more than one rhombus. You've probably heard the word rhombus. So a rhombus is a type of polygon, and if you remember from last week, a polygon is a many-sided shape. So anytime I have a shape with lots of sides, it's a polygon. So a triangle might be a three-sided polygon, a square might be a four-sided polygon, an octagon would be an eight-sided polygon. So as long as they've got a lot of sides, I could call that a polygon. Rhombus are also quadrilaterals, meaning they have four sides. They're a closed shape, so all of the edges on the sides of the shape connect with one another. There's no gaps or holes. Parallel would be another word that we might want to use today. So if you remember, parallel means when I have two lines that run equal distance from one another, on and on, forever and ever, they're never going to touch or cross. And then right angle is something else we might be talking about today. And if you remember that, a right angle is the corner of a shape, and it looks like the letter L. Okay, so here we have a rhombus. So a rhombus is a polygon. Again, that means it's going to have many sides. So we're going to count these sides here. I can see I have one side, two sides, three sides, and four sides. Because I have four sides, this particular polygon is also called a quadrilateral. Now you'll also notice that this rhombus here that we have is a closed shape, meaning that all of the edges are connected with one another, no holes or gaps. And the thing that's going to set a rhombus apart from the other shapes that we've talked about so far is that a rhombus has equal-sized sides. Each side is exactly the same size as the other sides. So let's go ahead and talk about the connection then. So we noticed last week that some of these shapes had connections with other shapes, and that some of them were actually indeed one of the other shapes as well. So we're going to talk about that a little bit today. So the rhombus. Now, we've learned about trapezoid, rectangle, and parallelogram. Including the rhombus, all four of these shapes are polygons. They're also all quadrilaterals, four-sided shapes, and they're closed shapes. All of their sides connect with one another. So there's only one trait on each shape that sets it apart or makes it a little bit different than each of these, and that's where they end up getting their own names. So with the rhombus, that means I have to have four equal sides. With a trapezoid, I have to have one set of parallel lines. So if I'm looking here at this trapezoid, this purple trapezoid down here, I can see this line and this line are parallel to one another. Now, as we spoke about before with the trapezoid, this other side length is not parallel. They end up crossing. So to be a trapezoid, you only have to have one set of parallel lines. So let's go ahead and look up here at our rhombus. Does our rhombus have one set of parallel lines? Well, right here, I see a set. I also see an additional set here. But because it has one set of parallel lines, that means a rhombus is a trapezoid. It's a type of trapezoid. Now, to be a rectangle, we have to have a different characteristic. To be a rectangle, I have to have four right angles. And I can see those here on this rectangle. There's an L-shaped corner there, an L-shaped corner here, an L-shaped corner here, and an L-shaped corner here. Now, if I'm looking at this rhombus up here, it doesn't appear that I do have right angled sides, but I do know another shape that has 4 sides that are all the same size and its corners are all right angles. It's a shape that you're very familiar with. It's one of the first shapes you've probably ever learned, which is called a square. A square is an example of a rhombus being a rectangle. So, a rhombus is a rectangle. When a rhombus is a rectangle, we call it a square. Kind of confusing there. Okay, so now we know that a rhombus is definitely a trapezoid because it has one set of parallel lines. And it can also be a rectangle, but to be a rectangle, it has to be technically a square so that it gets those right angles. Now the last shape we have here is a parallelogram. And a parallelogram has 2 sets of parallel lines. That's what makes it a parallelogram. And you can see here on our parallelogram, there's one set of parallel lines, and here again, we have another set of parallel lines. So there are indeed 2 sets of parallel lines. So if I'm looking up here at this rhombus, I can see that. There's a set of parallel lines, there's a set of parallel lines. Since it has 2 sets of parallel lines, guess what? A rhombus is also a parallelogram. So very interesting here. This rhombus that we just learned about is a trapezoid. It's also a rectangle, and it is a parallelogram. Okay, so how about the other way around? Would a trapezoid, rectangle, and parallelogram also be a rhombus? So to be a rhombus, again, we have to have 4 equal length sides. So this side, this side, this side, and this side all must have the exact same measurement. So let's see if that's actually true. So let's go down here to this trapezoid and take a peek. Well, I can see just looking at it pretty quickly that this side is definitely not the same size as that side. This side looks about the same size as this side, but I don't have all 4 of them being exactly the same. So because they're not all exactly the same size, then no, a trapezoid cannot be a rhombus. All right. Now, what about our rectangle? Could a rectangle be a rhombus? Well, for a rectangle to be a rhombus, it would have to have 4 equal length sides. So let's check that out here. If I'm looking at this rectangle, I can see that this side and this side are equal in size, and this side are equal in size, but they are not all equal in size. However, it could still be a rhombus. The only way it could be a rhombus is if this rectangle happened to have equal sized sides as well. Now, if you're thinking about that, what would a rectangle with equal sized sides look like? Well, it would look exactly like a square again. So, yes, that doesn't look very much like a square. There. Yes, a rectangle could be a rhombus if the rectangle sides were all equal in length. But if the rectangle sides were all equal in length, we wouldn't really call it a rectangle, we would call it a square. So yeah, a rectangle could be a rhombus. Now our last one, a parallelogram. So again, to be a rhombus, I have to have all 4 of my sides be the same size. Let's look at this parallelogram. Are all 4 sides the same length? No, they are not all the same length. Since they are not all the same length, a parallelogram is not a rhombus. Okay guys, so this is quite tricky material, so if you need to rewatch this slide, go ahead and backtrack it, watch it again. This kind of stuff always makes me have to rethink each year, so I know that it might be difficult for you to get this right off the bat as well. So definitely take advantage of the fact that this is on a video and that you can watch it and listen to it several times to see if it can kind of stick into your head. Right now would be a really good time to pause this video, Go to your Google Classroom, open up your Google quiz, and answer the questions about the math now while it's fresh in your mind. Okay, for reading today, you guys are going to be reading a short story called Bats. If you're interested, remember you can post a comment, link, or video about it underneath our YouTube video. Here on our slides, I just noticed it still says ducks or waterfowl. That's from last week. So what I would like your post to be about would be more about bats or echolocation. So if you find anything interesting or you know of another video that's really interesting that has to do with those two topics, go ahead and put it there in the comments so that other classmates could also view that. This would be a good time to pause this video, go read that article on bats. Remember, it's in your Google Classroom underneath your morning message in the attachments, and then answer your questions about it in the Google quiz. All right, for science today. In science, I'm actually going to give you a little lesson today. I've been sending you guys off to check out some things, and you will today, but I just wanted to review some things you've learned so far. So scientists classify animals, and what that means is that they identify animals, then they name them, and they organize them into groups. The animal kingdom is split into two main groups. So there's two main groups of animals, vertebrates and invertebrates. A vertebrate is a type of animal that has a backbone, and an invertebrate is an animal that has no backbone. So I have some examples here. We as humans are vertebrates. A starfish would be an example of an invertebrate. They have no backbone. So for the last 2 weeks in science, you've learned about the 5 vertebrate animal groups. So there's 5 particular groups that do have backbones. I noticed on your quiz, I think almost every single one of you marked that reptiles do not have backbones, and that is not true. Even things like snakes that you wouldn't think have a backbone because they seem like they're just one long thing, they do actually have a backbone and a little tailbone. So these are our 5 animal groups that we've been talking about. Mammals, which is the group that we belong to, reptiles, amphibians, birds, and fish. So all living things experience what is called a life cycle. So whether you're a vertebrate or an invertebrate, whether you have a backbone or not, you're going to have a life cycle. Remember, living things also include plants. So not only are animals with or without backbones going to have a life cycle, but so something like a plant. We learned about plants before we begin our remote learning. So today, you guys are going to watch a video explaining what a life cycle is. This video is going to be in the attachments under the morning message in our Google Classroom. So right now would be a good time to pause this video, check out that other video that I have for you. It's on Generation Genius, and then go to your Google quiz and answer those questions about that. Come back after you're done. All right, so today for writing, you're going to be working on the end of your celebrity dinner party essay. Many of you should be wrapping these up. If you haven't already, you get this week to kind of finish these things up. Remember, the end of our story should fix whatever problem we had. So if you remember in my essay, poor Vincent van Gogh lost his other ear during a wrestling match. So my story is definitely going to end with an ambulance coming. I've attached my story so that you can read what an ending should look like in your Google Classroom underneath the morning announcements and the attachments. You can check it out there. The ending is highlighted in green. So what you're going to be doing today is making sure that you wrap up the end of your story. Your essay is going to be due this Friday. All right. App of the day. Again, our app of the day is going to be Freckle. I would like you to spend 15 to 30 minutes on Freckle each day this week. No one reported passing off a whole section last week, so I want to see if someone can do it this week. Remember, I do get a daily email from the Freckle company so I can see who has been on and who has not been on. So don't forget to do this. Make sure that you're going. If you don't have a lot of time, keep it down to those 15 minutes. And if you have more time, then use it. So a good way to pass off the section, start in the section that you've passed off the most levels. If you have a section and you're already on level 30, start there. That's going to be the easiest section to pass off. And it's really good review for things that are coming up in math as far as we're going to be starting some Friday tests where you're going to be passing off some things that we've already learned about, but maybe you've forgotten because it's been a while. So this is a great way to kind of review that information. Keep answering the questions on there the best that you can. Last thing for prep, so I'm no longer going to be adding a prep slide in. It might be in tomorrow just as a reminder, but your prep teachers have taken the time to put together a new Google Classroom for you. They have put in activities you can do for computers, library, music, PE. So I want you guys to check that out. Everything they put in there is optional, so I know some of you have more time than others. If you've got some free time and you're not quite sure what to do with it, go check out that Google Classroom and see if maybe there's something in there that you'd be interested in doing. I will include the link to that new Google Classroom in our daily attachments in our Google Classroom underneath the morning message. All right, guys, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you tomorrow.